We're here for the second season of our Newcastle Rebuild, spending their millions, whatever we want to call it. You know what it is. You know why we're here. We've got a bag of money to spend. About 99 million, I believe, during this window. So firstly, I want to come with you in the summer, show you what we've done at the end of the January transfer window, and then we're going to go from there. But before we go, it is currently Saturday, 2 days shy of the release date. Depends on if it's released Monday night or Tuesday night or wherever the hell they're going to figure it out. But the new game's nearly out. We've got a few saves to come on. We're going to do other ones similar to this. So firstly, I want you to pop in the comments other teams that you want me to rebuild or look at in a similar fashion. And other than that, we've also got our new save that's going to start, which I am thoroughly excited for. And if you are looking forward to it, then drop a subscribe, give the bell a little tickle, because what we're going to be doing is starting off with no badges, no previous experience, and we're going to be seeing what we can do. First aim, or kind of vague aim of the save, is to win the Champions League with Villa. And if we go through other teams during there for that story, then we're just going to embrace it. Well, let's get started with this video. Coming off the back of the first season, we did pretty well, but we didn't do as good as I'd like us to do. If you didn't catch that, then click up here and you'll see a link for the first episode if you haven't already watched that. But what we need to do firstly is jump into our transfers. Sales-wise, we haven't done too much. There's no big name sales. We have sold Dubravka over to Inter. So at the end of the transfer window, he's currently played 7, conceded 13, which seems quite poor to be fair, especially with Inter. But we got 7.5 million, so we managed to make money from him as well. I think that was a pretty good sale, considering we've already replaced him as our #1 goalkeeper. Along with that, we sold Jeff Hendrick to Midtjylland for 3 million. And we've also sold another few players for 1.2 million, Javi Manquillo, and there's a Peruvian young centre mid that's also gone. I'm not going to show you them because we don't particularly care about them. But what we do care about is our signatures. So let's go and have a look at the first one. This first one we were already aware of, but what I have managed to do is actually get him a work permit. We have Gavi. He came in to us for £21 million from Barcelona. He's currently worth 76 to 92, and he's 18, and he's not too far off the first team already. I was thinking along with Gavi we could do with a little bit more in midfield, so we've signed, I believe this is pronounced Ezequiel, I'm not 100% sure, Palacios. He's came in from Leverkusen for 19.25 million. He's played 5 games for the club already, pretty decent stats, and a little bit of potential as well. So I think he was a strong signing for us, and it hasn't broken the bank either. Fancied a little bit more creativity up top, so I'll sign Thiago Almada. He can work either wing, and then he can play in the support behind the forward as well. We actually picked him up for only 7 million, so I was pretty happy with that. And as you can see, he's played 7 games so far, and he's got 4 goals in the league, 5 from 8 in total. He's doing a pretty good start for us. Along with that, I thought we could do with another right back, especially as we sold Manquillo. So we picked in Rasmus Christensen. He's came over from Salzburg for 10 million. He hasn't actually played recently. Sorry, he hasn't actually played yet because he only joined recently. But at 6'2" with pretty decent stats all around the board, I think he'll do a pretty good job for us. And to finish off, the man that did particularly well at the Euros, Patrick Schick. I thought we needed a forward. We missed out on kind of one of the only forwards that's kind of world class that would join us in Lautaro Martinez at the start. But I think Patrick Schick's pretty goddamn good forward, so he'll definitely do a job for us. As we said, he's not recent. He's only recently joined, sorry, so he's not had a chance to play for anyone yet. But again, also coming over from Leverkusen. So we'll have a look at the signings in total. So I'll move my little head out of the way. We bought in £78 million worth of player. We sold 14.25, and currently we do still have 39 million in the transfer budget. So I'll let you know where we are in the league at the moment, and we'll scoot through towards January then. We are currently in 10th. We are there because we've played the whole of August, and weirdly the opening game of the season in July, which was a 6-1 win. I thought, this is it. We're going to win the league. The next 2 games we were lost without scoring, so that didn't do too well. Picked up a 3-0 win against Rochdale. Those 2 games, were a 1-0 loss against Wolves and a 2-0 loss against Leeds. The next league fixture saw us lose 2-1 against Villa. A 3-1 win for us then against Fulham, with Almada getting a brace and Almiron scoring. 2-0 loss against West Ham. And then most recently, a 3-0 win against Leicester. So I'm thinking things are picking up at the moment. But we do have a tricky month with West Ham, Everton, Chelsea, Man U and Tottenham. It's not the nicest September we could look at. But I suppose what you need to do is wake me up when September ends. I'm sorry. I just am. But what we're going to do is ignore that atrocious noise that just fell out of my face. And we'll go and join you at the end of the January transfer window. Upon return for the January transfer window, I realised that I'd been fired. So we've been let go. Let's see at what point that happened. And we'll see what caused it. What I'm going to do is scoot through after this kind of analysis part for the next 5 years of the save and see where they ended up. See if the money has been spent better by Conte and if he's managed to do a bit of a better job as well. So we were let go on the 15th of the 10th, 2022, after a year and 102 days in the job. I'm going to jump into the fixtures now and see what it was that caused that. So the 15th of... That September joke hasn't come back pretty well on me, has it? It wasn't a nice month. We started off with a 1-1 win against West Ham, and yes, I said 1-1 win because we picked up the win on penalties. Followed with a 2-1 loss against Everton, 3-1 loss against Chelsea. We then lost on penalties against Norwich, who I believe are a Championship club. Let me have a little look. Did they get promoted? No, they are a Premier League club. They're just at the bottom. We then went back into the league with a 4-0 loss. Picked up a big old point against Tottenham. And then lost 3-1 to Southampton, which subsequently led to my sacking. Conte's had a little bit of a rough start. He started off with a 2-0 win. Then he had back-to-back losses with Bournemouth and Brentford. We then scooted through December for the World Cup, seeing us return just after Christmas actually, with wins against Arsenal and Liverpool, which are pretty big. And then he's got a game against Man City to start off the new year. We've got some fantastic news. England have only managed to win the World Cup, and not only have won it, they've won it on penalties, which is splendid. I think it's the only realistic way that England are going to win the World Cup, and it's to deny Netherlands from ever actually managing to do so. But knockout round, they first played Jamaica, beating them 4-0. Took extra time to get past Russia. A 2-1 win against France in the semi-finals, and then, as we said, beating Netherlands in the actual finals themselves. We'll scoot back and have a little look at their group. Qatar went out without a point, with Netherlands, Russia and Morocco being in their group. So they didn't have the best time as hosts, but I'm pretty sure there's been people that have performed worse. They at least scored 3 goals, so well done for that. England were in with Ivory Coast, Colombia and Australia, seeing Ivory Coast and Colombia finishing equal on points, but Ivory Coast qualifying through goal difference, and Australia having a pretty torrid points, to be fair. Torrid time, picking up their only point. If I scoot down a little bit further, you can see, in a 0-0 draw with Colombia. We see it started off with a 1-1 draw against Ivory Coast, in which Bellingham scored, a 2-1 against Australia with Gomez and Grealish, 1-0 against Colombia with goal from Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling scoring a brace against his possible other nation. I'm not sure exactly, but I know he can play for Jamaica, so I'm just going to leave it as possible other nation. Harry Kane and Greenwood also scoring. Bukayo Saka scored the injury time goal against Russia. John Stones scoring very late for us to beat France in the 95th minute. And, as we said, penalty shootout. Perfect from England, not missing one penalty to defeat Netherlands and take the de jure home for the first time in God knows how long. Now what I'm going to do is take my unemployed ass 5 years into the future and see what's happened. I can see that Villa are currently unemployed. I can see that Villa are currently in need of a manager, so I'm awfully tempted, but that's not what we're here for. So let's go and have a look at what Newcastle have done. So once Conte got his little sticky fingers on the treasure chest at Newcastle, he picked up Remo Freuler, Fabio Carvalho, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Josh Wilson-Esbrand, and Lloyd Kelly for 33 million from Bournemouth. He's done pretty well there. It does say we're 14th in the league currently, but this is at the start of the season, so that's irrelevant. What should we do? Should we jump through? I'm going to jump through transfers, then we'll see if we can see that the team are getting better, and we'll see if that correlates to the league. I think that might be interesting. So, following year, I'm going to assume it's still Conte. They signed Onana for 58 million, Souček for 49.5, Soyuncu for 35 and a part exchange, who was Palacios. So that's 55 million at what we signed Palacios for. Palacios is currently at Villa as well, so he's gone on again even further. And then there's a few other players with kind of low ticket prices. They sold Nicolas Schuler for 44 million. Schuler that we picked up for 19, so they've got the double value for him. So I'd say that was a success on my part. They sold Saint-Maximin for 29. They sold Chukwueze for 16. We signed him for 32, so that's a big old L. His performances were pretty bleak as well, so if we can just ignore that, that'll be nice. And along with that, they also sold Jamal Lascelles and Jamal Lewis for a combined fees of just shy of 5 million. Following season saw them sign Mark Guehi for 32 million. And then there's a few other players that are quite low value, and to be fair in comparison, all less than 10 million, except for this Martinez fella who's now worth 15. He's still at Newcastle and is valued between 14 and 42. He also isn't real, so there is that. We've sold Ronaldo for 14 million. I think if I remember rightly, we signed him for 24, so we lost a little bit of money on him as well. The following season saw them pick up Teun Koopmeiners for 62 million, Pascal Struijk for 54, Ben White 40.5, Jadon Anthony for 34, Conor Gallagher for 26.5, and then a bunch of players under $1 million. A lot of money being splashed about there, 219 in total. Sales, they sold Souček for 39.5 to PSG, I believe taking a loss. Another big old loss, they sold Schick for 5-6 million, should we say, and I signed him for 20, so there's another L for my transfers. The following season saw them pick up, that's the same season. The following season, they signed Ilax Mariba for 70 million. Some fella called Arnaldo, who I can only assume isn't real. They got new faces. He's also not real. Felipe Megiarlaro from Southampton, who is real, and is valued between 53 and 158 million. So he's very good by the looks of that. And they picked both of those two players up for 33.5 million. They've made 58 million in transfers, mostly from Lloyd Kelly, with 43 million, which is a 10 million profit from the signing a few seasons prior. And then most recently, they've picked up a fella called Linton Maina from Dortmund, whose, I was going to say, name does ring a bell, but I didn't want to say it and look like a plonker when he wasn't real. He is real. I'm not particularly too clued up on him, but he's worth 50 million, so they've obviously value him for something. What we're going to do now is scoot back to that first season when I got sacked, see where we go. Looking at these transfers, this is probably a little bit of an off-season, but we're spending big money, so I'd expect to see that they're pushing Europe at least. I wouldn't expect a title challenge with the signings that I've just seen, but we'll have a little look, shall we? Second season, in which we were sacked halfway through, saw them finish 13th. So we actually finished 10th when we had them, so Conte didn't do too good a job, did he? I thought what we'd look at before that is have a look, see the managers that they've got. So Conte lasted a year and 71 days, so slightly less than I did. They then brought in Mourinho, who didn't even last a year. Then they signed Sergio Conceição, who then resigned. He was in there for just over a year and a half. And then Conte came back, and he's just shy of 2 years off his kind of current positioning. So they've had a little bit of flitting about. That isn't filling me with confidence either for the league. I have started, and I've seen the first season, which you might be a little bit pleased. I was. Just made me feel a little bit better. It validated me a tiny amount. Let's go and have a look what I'm talking about. So what I was saying is that they finished 13th with that half a season under Conte. If you remember when we finished our first season, it was 10th. So we were just outside Europe by 4 points, no, 5 points. So it wasn't far off, but then that season they were 12, 13 points. So it's a downtrend. We then know that obviously Conte didn't last to the end of this next season. So let's see where Newcastle finished up. So they were 9th. So they did step up. Still didn't manage to breach that ceiling into Europe, but they're definitely heading in the right direction by the looks of it. The following season, they finished 12th. It's kind of just, I think it's just perpetual that they finished just off Europe and then stone like mid-table, finishing on 47 points in that season. The following year, 4th. So they did actually get into Europe. I assume this was under Conceição, because he's the fellow that left, getting into the Champions League as well. So we'll have a little look to see how they got on in that competition. And then most recently, they finished 4th once again. So it looks like they've managed to breach the gap and actually get their way into the Champions League. So we need to see how they've performed in that competition. And then they're back. They're back where we know them. They're back what they used to, solidly in the middle of the table. So that's not filling me with confidence that the Champions League ventures were any good, but we'll have a little look at that. So if we order our competitions by the Champions League, and we can see what happened. So they finished 4th in the group, which is just bleak. I'll have a little look to see who they played. And then they lost to Man U in the semi-finals, so they did get quite far that year. So it's 26-27 was the one that we were looking at, which was their group stage venture. We'll have a little look to see at what group they were in. To be fair, that is a pretty brutal group. Real Madrid, Monaco and Dortmund. They finished with 4 points, picking up a win against Dortmund and a draw against Dortmund, but losing every game against both Monaco and Madrid. The following season, they qualified from their group, which also featured Monaco and Real Madrid, but had Leverkusen this time, and they qualified with 10 points. So they had wins both games against Leverkusen and one of the ones against Monaco, and they even picked up a draw against Real Madrid when they came to St Andrews. It's not what it's called at all, St James's. St Andrews is the little shed, the little tin pot in Birmingham. Firstly, they played Inter Milan, beating them 4-4 on penalties, so it was a pretty eventful game over the 2 legs for them. Then moving on to Leipzig, who they beat 5-2, and then get absolutely battered by Man U 5-1. Funnily enough, Man City won 5-1 in the semi, leading an all-Manchester final, which, by the looks of it, Man City picked up quite comfortably. So, obviously, we've had our 5 years. It hasn't been the best. If we're honest, I could have done a little bit better. Go back, see if any of the players that I've brought in are still there. So Gavi's still at the club. He's worth 209 million. He's had a few pretty goddamn good seasons for him. The one of them picking up an average rating of 7.23. Along with that, we've signed Serginho Dest, who's 39 to 117. Again, regularly hitting over 7, which is pretty strong. Thiago Almada, 40 to 121 million. Every season he's hit over 7, except his most recent one, in which he only hit 6.92. So he's doing pretty well. Pedro Goncalves is another signing of ours, 50 to 150 million. Pretty regularly over 7, a few times where it's dropped just below, and one that was 7.23, which is pretty strong. I think that was the same season when Gavi had his good season, so that must have been one of their Champions League group stage hitting seasons. So he's doing pretty well on there. Also, he's 30 years old now. What about our goalkeeper that we brought in? Where's he gone? Is he still in the team? So they've got Anana in goal, and Kane Robinson, and Felipe Maggiariala. So I don't know where that goalkeeper's gone either. I assume they must have released him. Let's have a little look. So we'll scoot back to our ones. Dani Alves doesn't exist anymore. That's fine. Julian Alvarez, he's still at Newcastle. Completely missed him. He looks like he's been doing pretty well for him. Picking up ratings just shy of 7 and a few over 7. And again, that same season, 7.17. So that season, they almost kind of gelled together under that goalie, under that manager. Bayonadia is at Juventus. They've managed to pick him up for 7.5 million. I don't know why they've let him go for that cheap. But yeah, he's doing a pretty good job over at Juventus as well. So I'm pretty happy with what we've done. We brought in a few decent players, ones that have helped definitely put part of the bedrock of the team. I think we did quite well. Definitely could have done better. I think it's down to the tactics, to be quite honest. If you are still here, then fair play to you. You've made it to the end of the video, and thank you very much for that. But I hope you're there for the next one that we're going to do. As I say, we're going to look at some more rebuilds. I'm not sure exactly who I'm going to do. I've got a few teams in mind, but if you want to pop some in the comments who you'd like to see as well, that would be nice to have some input. We've got the new save coming out soon, as I mentioned, and a few links on screen for you to click if you want to carry on hearing my beautiful voice. But thank you very much for your time.